Hi everyone, this is Kelsey at OWL HQ. Have you ever been asked to provide feedback on a document written by another person? Perhaps you had suggestions for them, such as removing or changing certain words, altering the structure of a sentence, or adding a word, sentence, or paragraph. In these cases, it's helpful to use suggestion mode so that the author of the document can see your suggested changes and either accept or reject the suggestions. This video will go over how to use suggestion mode in 4 major word processing applications: Microsoft Word, Microsoft Word Online, Google Docs, and LibreOffice Writer. Comments are another way to provide feedback on documents. Check out the description for a link to our video on comments. In Word, suggestion mode is called Track Changes. To turn this mode on, click the Review tab of the ribbon, then click Track Changes. You want to make sure you're clicking the pen and paper icon, not the words Track Changes. A background color should appear behind the button after clicking on it, indicating that Track Changes is on. With Track Changes on, everything you do in the document will be saved as a suggestion rather than a permanent change. For example, if I think that deleting a word will help with the readability of the document, I can delete the word, but it stays in the document, now with a strike through it. Also note that the word is now read. To demonstrate further, when I add a sentence, it appears in red with an underline. When I send the document back to the author, they'll be able to go through these suggested changes and either accept or reject them. Let's say you've received a document with suggested changes in it. What do? Well, for one, you can right-click on a suggested change. In the menu that appears, there should be options to accept or reject. If you accept, the change will be incorporated into the document, and if you reject, the suggestion goes away and the document stays as is. You can also use the buttons in the Changes section of the Review tab. These buttons will allow you to accept or reject suggested changes, as well as jump to the previous or the next suggested change. You may have noticed the gray bar in the left-hand margin of the document. Click the bar to show or hide suggested changes. This can be helpful if you want to see what the document will look like with the suggested changes incorporated but haven't accepted them yet. There are 2 ways to track changes in Microsoft Word Online. The first is to use the Review tab in the ribbon, and then use the Track Changes drop-down menu to turn changes on. There are 2 options here: show your own suggested changes or show everyone's. The second way is to use the drop-down menu in the top right corner of the screen. It's normally set to editing mode, but if you click on it, you can select reviewing mode. This will set track changes to just mine. Now every change you make to the document will be tracked. If you've received a document with suggested changes from someone else, there's a few ways to work with them. Left-click on a suggested change to see who made the suggestion, and from there you can click the check mark to accept the suggestion or click the X to reject it. Or you can right-click on a suggestion and then left-click Accept or Reject as appropriate. You can also use the buttons in the Tracking section of the Review tab and the ribbon to accept or reject and jump to the previous or the next suggested change. To turn on suggestion mode in Google Docs, locate the drop-down menu on the right side of the screen. This should be set to editing by default. Click the drop-down menu, then click Suggesting. Because Google Docs is a collaborative tool allowing multiple people to edit a document at the same time, each person making suggestions will be assigned a different color. Suggestions also generate a bubble on the right side of the document with the suggestor's name and the suggested change. To accept a suggested change, hover over the bubble associated with that suggestion and click the check mark, or click the X to reject it. There are 2 different ways to track changes in LibreOffice Writer, depending on which user interface you're using. If you're using the standard interface, locate the Track Changes button in the toolbar. It looks like a piece of paper with a pen on top of it. Click on it and this will open a new toolbar in the bottom left corner of the screen. Click on the Record Changes button. This looks like a piece of paper with a red dot on top of it. The button's background color should change to indicate that it's on. If you're using the tabbed interface, click the Review tab in the ribbon, then click the Record button next to the Show Track Changes. Again, the button's background color will change to indicate that it's on. suggested changes appear in a different color, in this case yellow. And if you're the one who received a document with suggested changes, right-click on one of the changes, and then left-click Accept or Reject as appropriate. You can also use the buttons in the Review tab of the ribbon to find the next or previous suggested change, to accept or reject an accepted change, or to accept all or reject all changes. And that is it for this video on using suggestion mode in 4 major word processing applications. I hope it's been helpful, and thank you for watching.